Sometimes you need to know what disturbing films are really worth the payoff, and I have put together a list of the most shocking, disturbing twists in the most shocking and disturbing movies of all time. It doesn't get twistier with a better payoff than this. Warning, of course, ahead, these films all contain twists, which some of you might see as a spoiler in itself, but this has been heavily requested. I also didn't know whether to give explainers of the twist because some of you wanted that and some of you didn't. So I have done what was highly requested and I've split this video in two. First part, I will just list the movies with no spoilers. Just know that they are well worth the watch. And then the second part, which I'll give you a big warning for, I'm going to get into the explainer of all the spoilers, just in case these films are too disturbing for you. But you can also jump around using the time codes down below. I've separated this into chapters, so it should be easy to jump around. And I will do a huge spoiler warning before I get into the second half of the video. Okay, I've spoken enough, let's get into it. Getting straight into it with one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. The Skin I Live In is a Spanish thriller drama starring Antonio Banderas. The movie is based on a 1984 novel, and it follows a successful plastic surgeon who has invented a type of synthetic skin with exceptional qualities. This skin is completely resistant to any damage, and to test out this skin, he uses a mysterious woman as his guinea pig. The movie is slow in parts, but well worth the nightmare fuel. It's a bizarre setting with some really intense, disturbing moments and themes, but nothing could ever prepare you for the truth behind the surgeon's obsession. Korean film Oldboy has one of the best twists in cinema of all time. The film is a loose adaptation of a Japanese manga of the same name, and it follows Ode-soo, a man who's kidnapped and imprisoned for 15 years. The crazy thing is he's unaware of the identity of his captor or even why he has been held there. But in a strange turn of events, one day he awakens completely free. Haunted by the last decade and a half, he now aims to track down who has stolen his time away from him and, more importantly, why. But he might not like what he finds. This film is disturbingly masterful and you'll have to be sick to see any of it coming. This one is gonna put a spanner in the works. This is a very controversial film. I know a lot of people are horrified by this one, especially due to a certain scene, and I get it. But because these scenes are normally what are focused on when we talk about this movie, a lot of people don't even know it has a dramatic twist. The movie follows a semi-retired porn star who accepts one last job to secure his family's finances for the rest of their lives. But the quote-unquote job reveals a dark underbelly of snuff films, and soon he is trapped inside the nightmare himself. The movie is disturbing from start to end, and there is a dramatic twist that really seals the deal and makes it one of the darkest films of all time. I just had to put on this list. The ending is almost too shocking to repeat out loud, and I do not look forward to explaining it to those who want it to be revealed in the second half of this video. Directed by Bill Paxton, Frailty is a dark drama thriller about a mysterious man that arrives at the steps of the FBI officers, confessing that he knows an active serial killer who has been on their radar for years. From here, he tells the traumatic story of his childhood and his religious father who one day demanded that he and his brother start hunting demons. This movie's a journey. I really like the way it's told through the story to the FBI agent, and I promise it is worth the outcome, especially if you like disturbing cinema. Memento is a twisted thriller that reveals itself slowly. The movie put Christopher Nolan on the map for what he does best, creating a story wrapped in a psychological puzzle. It's based on a short story by his brother, Jonathan Nolan, and it follows the story of a man who is suffering from short-term memory loss, and he's created this elaborate system of notes, tattoos, and photographs to control his life as he struggles to make sense of it. And because it's Nolan, nothing is straightforward, as the film only reveals itself in full form when all of the pieces meet. The movie is told in a non-linear story, asking the audience to piece together it for themselves, but it is well worth the payoff. Prisoners is a movie that you'll never forget. I know everyone who has seen it, who just heard me say the name, shiver went down their spine. This film has harrowing performances from Hugh Jackman, Terrence Howard, Viola Davis, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Paul Dano. The story follows two families pushed to the edge when their daughters are taken from their neighborhood. Now in a race against time, one of the fathers has become desperate and decides to take matters into his own hands to find his daughter hopefully alive. This one is not for the weak of heart, but again, this is a disturbing list. Speaking of disturbing, Jacob's Ladder is a surrealist masterpiece like none other. It's truly a horrific psychological nightmare about Jacob Singer, a man experiencing devastating trauma and hallucinations from his service in the Vietnam War. The movie makes the disturbing list because of how grim and truly dark the sequences are. It's an emotional, draining film with horrific visuals, ones that will stick in your mind for days. This is disturbing, but for a whole different reason. I had to include Spanish horror film The Orphanage because this movie truly broke me, and it's one of the hardest twists I've ever come to terms with. The movie is a slow burn drama horror where we follow a woman who brings her family to her childhood home, which used to be an orphanage. Her son soon begins to act strangely when he becomes attached to an imaginary friend, which is troubling. But the film moves from creepy to panic when her son disappears entirely. Now she must find him or track down his imaginary friend to find the truth. The film ripped my heart out, and the spooky setting makes for a really impactful, haunted mystery. The Machinist pushed lead Christian Bale to the edge, mentally and physically, as he took on the role of Trevor, a machinist who is battling insomnia, leading to extreme health issues. His life is already crumbling around him, but he's pushed to the edge when a workplace incident leaves him alienated and a target to his fellow co-workers. The movie is a twisted ride. It's gritty, cold, and hopeless, but the end makes it worth the grim setting. I know I talk about this film a lot, but when you think disastrous, disturbing, shocking twists, what do you think? The Mist. A film that changed the original ending from the book. The movie follows a group of strangers who become trapped in a supermarket after a thick mist overtakes their small town. And inside the mist lurks bloody creatures attacking anyone who enters. Of course, as I said, the film is based on the Stephen King novel, and although many people say that the core story of the movie is average, the last act changes everything and really seals the deal, making it an unforgettable experience. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'll leave you to find out. So that's the list. Some twisty ones there. I was going to do honorable mentions and mention a few of my favorite films and a few horror films that have some really good twists, because this is more aimed towards disturbing films in particularly, not just horror. But I thought if you do like this video, maybe I can do another one just for horror twists if you're into that, because I have so much more. My list was huge when I wanted to narrow it down to only 10 super disturbing ones. Now let's get into the explainers as I explain every single twist we just talked about. You can jump around using the time codes. Some of you guys love having things spoiled. I'll never understand why, but some of you guys might not watch these movies because they are so disturbing. So let's get into it. Of course, spoiler alert. As mentioned earlier, in The Skin I Live In, we follow Robert, who is a highly praised, successful surgeon who has created a synthetic skin that is virtually indestructible. Although he claims he has just been experimenting on mice, he has legally been testing on a woman we know as Vera. As the story progresses, we learn about his family. He had a wife and daughter, but his wife was badly burnt after a car accident, resulting in Robert's obsession with creating skin that can withhold any damage. Unable to deal with the horrors of the accident, his wife takes her own life. Later, their daughter is then assaulted at a party, and the father, Robert, snaps. He hunts down the perpetrator, a man known as Vicente. And here comes the twist. Robert kidnaps Vicente and performs sex reassignment surgery, turning him into Vera. He also gives Vera his wife's likeness, so eventually this leads him to fall in love with her as he has recreated his wife. It sounds insane and elaborate, and guess what? It is, but the pacing is so masterful. There are so many other disturbing elements going on, so who Vera truly is in the back of your mind. You don't even think about it until you understand the full story. Oldboy is the best example I've ever seen of revenge served cold. The film follows Dae-soo, who is kidnapped and imprisoned for 15 years with no idea why he is there. But one day he is suddenly released and he attempts to solve this mystery of his captivity. Along the way he meets a young woman and he becomes entangled with her, forming a romantic and physical relationship. Here is the reveal. The big twist is this woman turns out to be his daughter. The kidnapper is revealed to be Woo Jin, who was Dae-soo's peer in high school. Back then, Dae-soo discovered that Woo Jin and his sister were having a relationship, and he exposed this to his friends, which resulted in Woo Jin's sister taking her own life. For revenge, Woo Jin then orchestrated this plan for years to seek revenge. He later captured Dae-soo and, using elaborate hypnosis while he was imprisoned, led him on a path to find his daughter, who is now 18, causing them to fall in love with each other. The film is one gut punch after the next while the reveal is taking place, and it ends with Dae-soo visiting a hypnosis therapist to erase what he knows. But the very end scene is very ambiguous whether his memory was truly erased or it will always be haunting him. The movie's twist works on multiple levels, especially since the act of revenge, which we think is being held captive, isn't actually revenge until after he's released. Even if you haven't seen this one and you just wanted to hear the explainer, it's well worth watching in its entirety because the final act is just a masterpiece. I know how you all feel about a Serbian film, and for good reason, but not many people talk about the insane twist. In a Serbian film, we follow Milo, an ex-adult star living with his wife and his son. One day he's offered a large sum to make his final film that will set up his family for life. Once he signs the contract, he shows up for the gig and realizes that he has signed up for the sickest snuff film ever made. The film has many horrific scenes, with Milo even walking out at one point, but the anonymous director, concealing his identity, keeps holding the contract over his head. It all leads to a final scene where he has intercourse with two unidentified people with bags over their heads. And it's hard for me to say out loud, and I think you know what's coming next, but the plot twist revealed that these are his own family members, his wife and his son. The film ends with him and his family taking their lives, but with one last twist that is also being filmed. I can't say what happens after this, but just trust me, it somehow gets worse, cementing this film as one of the most depraved films of all time with one of the most disturbing twists. Frailty is a long and twisted journey about a father and two sons living with a dark secret. As an adult, son Fenton shows up at the FBI's office claiming to know who an active serial killer is, who has been committing murders in the area for years, and it's his brother Adam. He then tells the story of himself, Fenton, his younger brother Adam, and their father, who one night wakes up claiming to have heard from God that they need to work together to destroy devils living amongst them, which really means murder random people because of his delusions. As the film progresses, we watch the boys slowly come around to this new way of living. The dad receives new names and puts it on a list of who to kill. Although Fenton struggles with his dad's newfound faith, Adam somehow suffers from the same delusions, although it seems to be that he is trying to impress his father. After future Fenton tells this story, he leads the FBI agent to where the bodies are buried, but it's here the first twist comes into play as he reveals he is not Fenton, he is Adam. And guess what? This FBI agent was on the list, so it's his time to die. And as this is happening, we see the real Adam put his hands on this FBI agent and see his past sins. Somehow he knows something about this FBI agent he shouldn't, revealing that the delusions are true. He really is a warrior of God. And back at the FBI office, when they realize that their agent is missing, they scramble because no one can remember what this man who came in looked like, and the security cameras somehow have missed him entirely, showing just glitches. The twist is really that it was all real, and Adam has set up his dead brother who he killed to take the fall. The FBI agents are led to Fenton, the real Fenton's house, where they find the FBI agent who has been killed. And here is the final twist, I promise. They have to notify the real Adam of his brother Fenton's death. And as they go to tell him, it's revealed that Adam is a sheriff. And he shakes the agent's hand who tells him about his brother's death, letting him know that he knows deep down he is a good man. I mean, he probably would, because God told him. It was all an elaborate hoax to kill an FBI agent, mixing up the brother's identity, but also revealing that these delusions were real. Memento has probably one of the most complex twists on this list, and I'm gonna simplify it a lot. In the movie, we follow Leonard, who is suffering from amnesia, and he seeks revenge for his wife's murder. The film has a complex structure, and it alternates between black and white chronological scenes and color flashbacks, which depict Leonard's disorientation. Leonard relies on notes and tattoos to help him remember pivotal information, but the reveal is Teddy, who he believes to be his friend, is actually a corrupt cop. And he manipulates Leonard by falsifying his information about the wife's killer, making Leonard carry out dirty work for his own personal gain. Remember, Leonard has amnesia, so he is using this against him. And Teddy has been using Leonard the whole film. And when Leonard calls out Teddy, he claims that he helped him kill the real murderer a year ago, and he wanted him to relive this sense of justice by killing again. And in addition to that, we get a nice twist at the very end of the film, which is kind of the start, where we see Leonard manipulating himself to believe that Teddy is the real killer once his memory of this event has passed. As mentioned earlier, Prisoners is a grueling crime thriller, and this is about two families whose daughters go missing, and this is because they beg to go off on their own to find a toy whistle. Remember this. During the course of the film, we watch these fathers, particular the character Keller, played by Hugh Jackman, become ruthless for answers, and Detective Loki is on the case and suspects Alex, a man who has parked a white van in the family's suburb. Alex is interrogated, but no evidence is found, and then Keller takes matters into his own hands and kidnaps Alex and tries to force him to comply and talk. Loki finds another suspect, this is Bob, and he goes down a different path, but both suspects seem to have parts of the information but no complete answers. Keller becomes convinced that both suspects are working together and goes to look for further evidence, but in a shocking twist, it's revealed Holly, Alex's aunt, is the kidnapper and has been abducting children with her late husband for decades. Keller is then kidnapped by her and put in a hole underneath a car, but he has the whistle with him that the girls looked for at the start of the film. Loki arrives on the scene just after this and kills Holly in a shootout, and both girls are revealed to be alive. And even after a search, Keller is well gone. They can't find him, but the film ends with him calling for help with the whistle. The film is dramatic for so many reasons, but this chilling conclusion after him taking matters into his own hands is what seals the twist of events, because he becomes the prisoner. There's so much more, but it's such a terrific dark film. Jacob's Ladder is a film about PTSD and paranoia, leading the audience to question what is real and what isn't. As we said, the film is about a man who is experiencing hallucinations after his service, and it's a very straightforward twist with this one, but the atmosphere of the film has an emotional impact for the audience. The entire movie depicts Jacob's struggle with the trauma of war and losing his son, but the plot twist is unveiled when a character informs Jacob that he himself has passed away. The movie explores the psychological horror of war-induced PTSD and presents a thought-provoking narrative that blurs the lines between reality and, of course, hallucination. But it's confirmed that Jacob had died from his injuries he sustained in Vietnam. Yes, he was dead all along. Hey, there can be exceptions to this rule. Usually I wouldn't include it, but this is a really good twist. I wasn't lying when I said this one is a heartbreaker. As I mentioned, the film follows a family, mainly Laura, as she returns to the orphanage where she grew up with her husband Carlos and their son Simon. Simon is adopted, which he doesn't know, and soon after playing in the house, Simon claims to have an imaginary friend called Thomas. They play treasure hunting games around the house, and Laura is shocked when this imaginary friend seems to know secrets that she hasn't told him, like that he's adopted. Their relationship strains and all hell breaks loose one day at a party when Simon goes missing. Laura searches everywhere, and after hearing strange noises at night, soon finds out the dark truths about this property. Thomas was real, and it's revealed that he was killed accidentally by some of the other kids during a cruel joke. The property is haunted by Thomas and the other children. She believes that they have also taken Simon. Thomas plays another treasure hunting game with Laura and leads her to hidden human bones. These turn out to be the bodies of the children who accidentally led Thomas to his death. It turns out that Thomas's mum was part of the orphanage staff and killed the other children after his death for revenge. Laura tries to play along with Thomas and the other ghost children to find out what happened to Simon. This is when the real twist comes in. It's revealed that Simon got stuck behind a door during the party and had been trying to get help the whole time. And the sounds she believed were the ghosts at night were him. It was just a horrific accident. He died there, and Laura overdoses on sleeping pills, and we see her in the afterlife meeting Simon and the other children. The Machinist is the story of Trevor, who has insomnia and spirals into hallucinatory madness. Although it seems like everyone is out to get him for a sinister reason, it is revealed that several people in his life, including a waitress named Maria and her son Nicholas, and his work rival Ivan, are figments of his imagination. The shocking twist comes when Trevor recovers buried memories, revealing that he killed a boy resembling Nicholas in a hit and run a year prior. Overwhelmed by his guilt, Trevor created these hallucinations to avoid facing the consequences of his actions, imagining Nicholas and what his life would have been like as if he was still alive. The film's climax sees Trevor confronting the truth and reporting the hit and run to the police, ultimately freeing himself from the burden of guilt, allowing for the potential of healing. And one of my personal favorites is The Mist. The movie's memorable ending takes a dramatic turn from the Stephen King original novel. In the film, we follow a group of strangers who struggle to survive after their town is engulfed by a mysterious mist and terrifying creatures. And the twist unfolds right at the end, when the protagonist David believes there is no chance of survival, and he, with a bunch of his allies and his son in their getaway car, make the decision to take their own lives before the monsters kill them. David is the last to go, but just in this moment, the twist takes place. A successful army rescue mission is revealed coming out of the mist, showing that escape was indeed possible. If only they had held on minutes, they all would have been alive, including his son. It is gut-wrenching. Thank you so much for hanging around. I'm sorry for all the explanations throughout this video. I really don't like having long talky parts when I'm not getting into the meat, but I just wanted to set up exactly what this video was about and what it was intending to do. Thank you so much for joining me today, and if you would like a complete spoiler-free video of what I've watched lately, well, I checked out this movie Baghead in cinemas, and it was a very interesting result. Check out my Come With Me right here, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.